Could you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. My name's Dion. Good to be with you tonight. Yeah, Stephen, Todd, and Alan, we come from different places on this Zoom deal, and we've been enjoying each other's company and over the last 2, 3 months, right, Stefan? And keeping each other sober, and thank God we have each other. Yeah, I come into AA in 1968, April of 1968. So I've been clean and sober 52 years. I'm getting old, I'll tell you how old I'm getting. I saw a beautiful young girl today, and I'm thinking her grandmother must be hot. So that's where I'm at. I was born and raised in Bronx, New York City, baptized, confirmed in Mount Carmel Catholic Church. So I'll tell you a little about what I was like and what happened and what I'm like now. I come from this macho Italian neighborhood in the Bronx, Mount Carmel Church was the hub of Little Italy, and the code of the streets was reputation and respect. And you had to walk around looking like you knew everything. It had nothing to do with character. We didn't even know how to spell the word. So I grew up on the streets. Excuse me, I just ate some pizza. I don't know that. Anyway, my parents were not religious at all, but they didn't drink, they didn't drug, they didn't smoke, they didn't drink coffee, and they weren't bigots. I never heard them say anything about any ethnic group or anything. They had wonderful, wonderful qualities, but they were like two emotional 13-year-olds. They argued all the time. My mother was super, super responsible. She had 2 jobs. And she was always, on my father's back about he never had a real job. My father never paid taxes, never made any money to pay taxes. So, but he was full of wonder and awe and mystery, and he was an artist, and he was like Tarzan. He would dive off bridges and walk on his hands on the edge of the tenement buildings. He was a character. He was my hero, but not the greatest father in the world. You know what I mean? Responsibility was not his suit. He didn't even know what the word meant. He had no idea. So that's the way I was brought up. I used to pass Mount Carmel Catholic Church as I was on my way to junior high school, and Monsignor Pettinacone used to stand outside. And he used to walk up and down in front of this little cathedral, and he would be reading his prayer book. But he would try to engage the kids. He would try to engage me in conversation. I'd walk by and he'd say, "Yo, Dion, come over here. What's that movie, Rebel Without a Cause?" Now, I must have been 14, 15. In 1955, I was 15. I'm 80 now. I'll do the math for you. So going to be 81 in a couple of weeks. So I say to him, "Monsignor, Rebel Without a Cause, that's a James Dean movie. It's a cool movie." He says, "Dion, why rebel without a cause? Rebel for the truth, then you really got something, Dion." So I'd go up to Fordham Road, and I'd be on my way back, and, "Yo, Dion, come over here. What makes a man happy?" I'd say, "Monsignor, listen, this girl, Susan, moved down from Vermont. Monsignor, she's a righteous fox. If I could get a date with Susan, I got my eye, Monsignor, on this Ford Thunderbird with black leather bucket seats and wire chrome wheels. And if I could get a J200 Gibson guitar, the blonde one like Elvis Presley plays, or you know, a Martin that Hank Williams played, man, a hit record, Monsignor, I'd be a happy guy. And he'd say, no, Dion, the virtuous man is a happy man. Thanks. And I'd be walking away and I'd be like, what the hell is virtue? I didn't know what he was talking about. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I kind of rejected the church at a real young age because it made no sense to me. You know, the lure of the streets and the cool of the gangs just took me out. You know, I was into, you know, Jerry Lee Lewis was hitting the scene, Fats Domino, Chuck Berry. Come on. What was I? This guy was wearing a gown. How could, you know, he had a black gown, you know, what did that mean to me? I didn't relate, you know? So I love music, and just about that time, I you know, 14, 15, I took my first drink, my first drug, my first whatever, you know, and I remember coming out of a friend's house. We mixed, you wouldn't believe this, we mixed gin with chocolate syrup because the gin tasted so bad, you know. So that, you know, what could I tell you? I come out of this tenement building and I'm walking up the white line of Crotona Avenue in the Bronx. It's like, you know, a main street. And the tenement buildings are on each side. And I'm like running for governor. You know, I had a few drives. I was like, whoa, the kid is here. You know, I thought, I don't know, for some reason in my head, I thought I had to be born knowing everything. So, you know, I walk up to the corner candy store and there's Susan. And I tell you, man, could I talk? I was like, listen, in my house, my father and mother, if you uttered a word or any kind of feeling, they would say, you shouldn't feel like that. It's stupid to feel like that. You're crazy to feel that way. It's wrong to feel that way. Don't feel that way. And I'm thinking, how are you supposed to feel? I could swear I was feeling this or that when I told them, but, you know, they would just shut you down. So when I had a few drinks, wow, I could, you know, I just could talk. I just felt like I knew everything. I could, you know, I didn't have to second guess myself. I was right there. So I'm talking to Susan, this beautiful girl. I didn't know they grew anything as beautiful as her up in Vermont. So I became the first 15-year-old stalker in the Bronx. I was like, I was following this girl. You wouldn't believe. I'm singing Earth Angel to her. I'm singing Wonderful Girl. I'm singing all kinds. Baby, I'll love you for the, you know, eternity. Get out of here. She was like, who is this? Leave me alone, you know. But anyway, believe me, I'm married to this girl today. I'll just jump forward. I'm married to this girl, 57 years. We knew each other 8 years before we got married. Okay, so I got that. I got that out of the way. But now I'll tell you the horror story, okay? We'll go through it. But I don't know, there was this song, there was this guy, Willie Green, in my neighborhood. He was a janitor. And he played guitar, and I love when he played Jimmy Reed stuff, and he played John Lee Hooker stuff. And I was a weird kid, man. I'm from the Bronx. Everybody's listening to Jimmy Roselli and you know, Jerry Vale, and I'm listening to Jimmy Reed and Hank Williams. I was like a Hank Williams fanatic. I had all the 78s, you know, with the needle. That's how far I go back, you know. So I'm like learning these songs, and this guy, and I'm drinking, and I'm using anything. I'm a garbage pail. I'm just you know, anything, because when I do this stuff, I don't have to think. I could just talk. I just feel like I'm right there. I don't have to second guess myself. I feel good. So the next day I'm looking for anything, you know, to make me feel like that. So anyway, Willie Green tells me about this record company that opened in Manhattan, and I should go down and audition. And by this time I was 16, 17, you know, and I go down there and I sing a Carl Perkins song or something, you know, And man, they went crazy. They signed me that day. They said, get your parents. And I signed. I started making records for these people when I was 17. And hits kept coming. I had a good imagination and I had good ideas. There was no rules, no models, no, I don't know. I just making sounds up, you know. So getting these hit records, I start traveling around the country with Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Roy Orbison and the Everly Brothers. And I'm telling you, man, you know, people that I was watching dance across my living room floor on the Dick Clark show a month ago, and now I'm traveling with them. And it was quite exciting for me, a lot of fun. I made a lot of friends and kept them for like years. Like Little Richard just passed. A lot of people don't know what a thoughtful guy he was. They thought he was a maniac, but he was a sweet guy, man. He had a lot of heart, you know. So anyway, making a lot of money. Start making money like my uncles, you know, all my uncles were electricians, police officers, firefighters, foremen, you know, they worked on construction. They went out, they worked 4 years, and then they fixed up their living room or their kitchen. They worked another 4 years, they fixed up their bedroom. That's the kind of, you know, families we had. So, but all of a sudden now I'm winning like nobody won. You know, I'm getting checks like you wouldn't believe, you know, it's crazy. I'm successful, okay? So I'm gonna jump just a little thing. When I came in, my sponsor said, if you come to AA to be successful, you're in the wrong place. If you come to AA to be fulfilled, you're in the right place. So he defined, my sponsor's a wordsmith. So he started defining words for me, like freedom. He said, you're not talking about freedom, you're talking about license. You think doing anything you want is freedom. And you're not accountable to your wife, your country, your parents, your friends, yourself, your God, nothing. That's license. That's not freedom. Freedom is the ability to choose God's best. And you're not able to do that. You're addicted to so much stuff. You're not able to choose freely. So, you know, these are things I learned in AA. So I'm just jumping, I'm fast forwarding, I'll come back. So, because I'm at the top of my profession in 1963, let's go there. And I'm doing pretty good. I have like 12 gold records on my wall. And I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. Money, the girl, sex, drugs, rock and roll, power, the position, and honor. If you could get enough of those four things, you're successful. You're going to be happy. Anyway, it never registered what Monsignor Pettinacone told me, that the virtuous man is a happy man. I thought you got to get this stuff, you know. So I was still, you know, I heard him, but I didn't get it, you know. I didn't even get it when I'll stay here. So anyway, I'm like, I go out one day, I'm dating Susan. I'm in love with this girl. You know, she's the greatest thing that ever happened. I'm thinking, get this girl, my life's going to be a charm. This girl, you know, that's it. My life's going to be a charm. Well, I'm drinking, you know, I'm going out to the best restaurants now. I'm ordering Beaujolais, Bordeaux. I think I'm getting culture. I didn't know I was an alcoholic. I'm like, give me another bottle. You know, I'm getting all the culture I could get, you know. So one day I do a concert. I got people following me around with flash bulbs, interviewing me, you know, with all the, you know, all that stuff, you know, and we go out to a restaurant, a French restaurant, and Susan looks at me and says, could I ask you something? I said, sure. She says, is this it? Is this all you want? Is this all there is? Is this it? And I'm thinking, What does she want? More flowers? What do you know, I had no idea what she was asking me. I knew it was something profound, but I didn't have the slightest idea what it was. And because she was from Vermont, she was like from the land. She didn't get all this stuff. So it frightened me, I think. And I asked her to marry me. I got on the offense instead of, I didn't get defensive. I said, marry me. I'll do whatever, I'll change. I'm the guy. I'll love you. I'll love you forever. Okay? She bought it. She said, okay, well, what does she know? She's not perfect either, In fact, her father was an alcoholic. I didn't know it. I thought she was perfect. To me, she looked perfect. Being her was better than being perfect. So anyway, and the stages of alcoholism, the first stage is fun, and then fun and some problems, and then nothing but problems. The three stages, they say. So I'm going up. I'm in the fun stage. So, and I start, she says she's going to marry me. We get married in 1963. And some of the problems start coming around now, because it's progressive. And I had no foundation in my life. I didn't have a blueprint to live. I'm successful. I look good at the company. I just got dressed. I go over there and I'm trying to be the guy they signed. And I'm looking like I know what I'm doing, and I'm successful. It didn't harm what I was doing. But my personal life just was, it's like you walk away wondering who you are. It's just, let me put it this way. The kids say, get it together. I was coming apart. Like you do more acting here and the real you is over here than the real you is. And then it just gets wider and the gap gets, and you have to fill it with alcohol and drugs. That was my thing. So after I got married, the next 5 years was like problems and then nothing but problems. It just was the bleakest, darkest emotional period of my life. Irritable, restless, discontent. What the book talks about, soul sickness, resentments, shame, guilt, remorse. And the big, big thing, the way alcoholics and addicts do life. Blame everybody. You know what's wrong with you? You never, you always. Why don't you? If you'd only. How come you? That's the way we do life. It's like we're victims. So that was me. And I tried, and then I knew something. Then, I kid you not, I'm 28 years old, or maybe 27, right? Okay, 5 years after I got married at 23. 5 years later, all the drinking, drugging just really took me down. I just didn't know how to do life. And the resentments start coming in. And the frustration. And you think, I'm going to stop this. But tomorrow, of course. And the fear starts coming in. I don't think I felt fear until I was 27. I lived so much on pride and running that I don't think I experienced fear. All of a sudden I was on the street. I felt so alone. I didn't even know what it was. And what did I do with that? Of course, I drank more, Well, I just got to move this along. In this whole time, Susan's father was in AA. He went to AA. Jack Had no idea. Now I'm going to tell you something. This is ridiculous. I'm with her one night and she says, I think my parents are communists. I said, really? Why? She said, they go to these secret meetings on Thursday night, you know? So I said, really? Well, ask them, you know? So they come home and she asks her father and mother, she says, are you going to, because at that time it was big, you know, it was big, the communist thing. And I said, no, you know, I found out I was an alcoholic and he came clean. He said he was in AA. But I was just getting started, you know, okay, do what you got to do. But in 1968, I went to Jack. We were at their house, my in-laws' house, and he started talking to me about God. I didn't know God from a hole in the wall. But as a kid, I told you I was a weird kid. I used to listen to Hank Williams and Jimmy Reed. I also used to read Thomas Aquinas. I was interested in music and God. I wanted to know who God was. So, you know, my ears, you know, opened up a little. And he said, why do you drink so much? And I said, you know, it's clever, you know, because I'm not completely happy with my life. You know, it was like, get out of my face kind of, you know. So, you know, he was soft with me and he invited me to a meeting. This is 1968. And I go to a meeting and we end up in the, on the second floor in it's like the corridor, you know, where before you walk into the meeting room, where it was at City Hall. And I meet all these guys. I knew nothing about AA, you know, like sponsorship, 12 steps, whatever the deal is. I knew nothing. All I know is the guys that we walk into a group of guys that are laughing and telling jokes to each other, all kinds of black guys, Jewish guys, Irish guys, you know, you could say Protestant, Catholics, Jews, whatever you want to say. Oh, it's just like the United Nations there, right? And they're talking to each other. They're laughing from their gut. They're laughing out loud. And for 15 years, I was laughing like this. I was not connected. And I'm in the middle of these guys, and they're just real. And I knew it. I knew they were real. And I went into the meeting, and I knew nothing about what they were going to talk about, but they talked about fears and resentments and guilt and all this stuff that I would never think of talking about that stuff. Never. That would go with me to my grave. You would never see me, you know, you can't tell anybody you were frightened of anything. I'm from New York. You don't, hey, if somebody's banging your head up against the cement, you don't talk like that. You could do it in a song. You could say I'm lonely in a song. It doesn't threaten anybody, but that's why everybody's in the barroom playing Only the Lonely. But they can't say it because you get your head kicked in if you say it. But they could play it all night long. So anyway, they're talking about stuff like fears. I got these fears, and they're laughing. And I can't tell you what happened to me in that room. In a way, it must have been a spiritual awakening because I felt different. I thought I never experienced anything like this. And they told me to go home. And when I got there, they told me to say a prayer because a broken mind can't fix a broken mind. And you cannot do it. And if you do try to do it on your own human strength, you're going to end up in hell. You know what I mean is you're going to end up far from God. He's not going to be in the picture. You're going to like turn your back because that's what got me to AA, my self-will. You know what I mean? So I knew that. I just listened. I went back that night. I got on my knees and I said a prayer. And when I got up, I was changed. I haven't had a drink or a drug in 52 years, okay? That was April of 1968. And I guess you call it surrender. Like I said, in my neighborhood, that was a dirty word. But it's not running away from anything. It's running to someone who loves me. It's running to the winning side. And God removed my obsession to drink and drug. So I opened my ears. I come back into meetings because before this happened, you know where I was. You know where I was. I was miserable. I was lost. I was nowhere. I did not know how to do life. And I was successful. That's the funny part about it. I had the money. I had a bank account. I was successful. So I'm one of the guys who knows that that's not going to fill the deep longings of my soul. So when I started listening, when I came in, by the grace of God, he enabled me to get a sponsor. And I asked this guy, I said, I hear, really, have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path? What is the path? And he said, the 12 steps. And he said, they're designed to lead you into union with God. They're created. You know, God's created us in such a way only to work well when we're in union with him. And the most courageous thing a man could do is open his heart to God. So I'm reading the steps, and I see in the 7th step, it says, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. You know, I went through, and for some reason, I don't know why I did this. I didn't know any better, but the first book I bought was AA Comes of Age. So I saw that Bill had a Catholic priest as a sponsor for 20 years. And Reverend Shoemaker, who was a friend of AA, helped him edit the book. And it says, be quick to see where religious people are right and make good use of what they have to offer. Today, you still find people fighting and, you know, not putting that on their resentment list. They still resist. They still have this pushback. You know, well, I told my sponsor, one time I told my sponsor, I said, well, if you love people unconditionally, you'll get love back. And he went, oh, no, that's not the way it works. He says, some people cannot receive it. They push back. They're not open. They push back. And I see it all the time. People's eyes roll in their head. They get all. So anyway, I'm in the meeting. I'm buying it, man. I'm open. I'm like, I don't want to go back to this pain. I don't want to go back to this pain. I was lost, and now I feel like I'm part of something. I love AA. These guys, I trust them. I trust these guys, you know. And I'm working the program. I'm doing the best I can. I believe in God. I'm showing up. I feel like I'm working the program. I'm sponsoring people. And I'm 11 years in the program. It's 1979. And I'm feeling like one day something's missing. Something's missing? I don't know what it is. I'm doing everything. I got 3 beautiful young daughters who've never seen me drink or drug, right? In 11 years, Susan gave birth to these 3 beautiful girls, okay? The apple of my eye. And I know people love me. I'm in AA. I love AA, but something's missing. So I was jogging at the time. One day I go out for a jog, and I'm in about the 4th mile. And before this happened, this kid comes into my backyard. I was living in North Miami at the time. I moved down to North Miami, and he lived in the backyard. And he comes over and he says, I hear you believe in God. And I said, yeah. I said, I used to drink, and he took away my obsession to drink and drug. And he said, He said, could you define God for me? He was a Christian guy. He ran the youth group at the church. He says, could you define God for me? And I waved at the sky. I said, God. And he went, what? Where? What are you talking about? And I said, I really couldn't define it. So I went to my sponsor. I said, and I asked him a few things. He said, well, God isn't a supreme being within the universe. He's, and we used to read the 24-hour book. AA got in the publishing business. They threw the book out, but I still have mine. So I read it, and it tells you in there that God is outside of space and time. He created the universe. He created space and time. He's not contingent on anything. He's the sheer act of being itself. And, like when Moses said, who should I say sent me? He said, I am that I am. Not because Lillian and Ralph got together one night and I am. He just is. I am. I not was. I'm not become. I am. So I thought, all things are possible with God. I bought it. I just went for it. So I come back, and this guy, Wayne, comes over to my backyard again. He's asking me these questions, define God. And, we're having these discussions. And, I'm like interested because I believe in God. He took away my obsession. So one day I go out jogging. I'm in the 4th mile, and I'm a little frustrated because something's missing. I said, God, it would be nice to be closer to you. And a white light went off in the pit of my chest, and it just come out of every pore of my being, and like Jesus is standing in front of me and on the streets. I mean, not physically, there's a very profound, brilliant, sudden awakening. It was, I haven't been the same since, but, what could I tell you? It was an illumination, a revelation, a transformation. I don't know what. All I know is it was him, because I just knew. And I wasn't a churchgoer. I'm not so I run home, and I run into the house. I said, Susan, Jesus is alive. And she says to me, she looks at me like, she said, who doesn't know that? I said, why didn't you tell me? She said, yeah, like you're going to believe me. That's my wife. She's been praying for me all these years. But I had this newfound peace and forgiveness and mercy and grace. And I knew God was love. I knew, they say, it's like a bumper sticker, God is love. But God is love. He's not loving or forgiving. He is love. That's who he is. When I'm out of sorts, it's me. There's something between me and him. So I just got to come clean, and the room gets clean. You know what I'm saying? So then I found out when that happened to me, then it made sense that the wealth and the pleasure and the power and the honor that I thought was going to make me happy, I was running my own life. Now that God's in my life, he shapes my desire for these things. They're not bad, but now he's in my life. He shapes my desire for wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. And that's true freedom for me. That's like a freedom of excellence, a genuine freedom, an authentic freedom. And the book bears me out on this. On the last page, it says, see to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to you and countless others. And this is the great fact. So, man, I'm not obligated to anybody. I don't have to live up to anybody's expectations. All I have to do is be right with my creator. There's one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. God found me, took me in. I'm home. Now, the thing is, when I'm right with him, my wife gets the benefit of it. My kids get the benefit of it. You get the benefit of it. People that work with me or for me get the benefit of it. I certainly get the benefit of it because I'm peaceful and I feel forgiven and I feel secure and I feel well. And it just comes down, it's a very simple program. And it says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we carried this message to alcoholics. What message? Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we carried this message to alcoholics. What message? Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we carried this message to alcoholics. So I tell you, I can't shut up. And I've been like, I haven't calmed down since. I don't know about calming down. I don't know if that's the word. But my sponsors, God bless them, gave me a rich, deep intellectual understanding of who God is and what he could do. And they also, the sponsorship I have, man, I tell you, I learned, I'd go to them and they, because I have 3 daughters. And they'd say, Dion, don't ever confuse approval with love. Don't ever confuse them. Approval is not love. And if you confuse them, you'll be seeking approval all your life. It's not love. So I thought, wow, that's the way God loves me. He loves me unconditionally, but he doesn't sign on everything I do. There's some things that get in the way that offend him, I could feel it. The exact nature of our wrongs, our shortcomings, they get in the way, And so I think one of the biggest things I learned was, I told a story at a meeting the other day. A young fellow ran up to my sponsor with his wife in tow. And he said, we're getting divorced. I don't love her anymore. And my sponsor said, well, then love her. And he said, no, I don't love her anymore. We're getting divorced. And he said, well, that's what I said. Then love her. And I'm thinking, what the hell is he talking about? And that's exactly what came out of this kid's mouth. He said, what are you talking about? I just told you I don't love her anymore. I'm getting divorced. He said, love is not a feeling. He said, love is an action. It's a decision. It's a choice. It's an act of your will. You choose to love somebody. It's an action. It's not a feeling. It was always about me. Somebody get on my nerves. I go, I got a guitar and a credit card. I'm out of here. I mean, that was the extent of my love. You know what I mean? I didn't feel right. I'm out of here. I didn't get what I want. I was like a thin veneer of what a man should be. But having 3 daughters kind of changed me. They make you very soft and they make you very strong. You know what I'm saying? But so in the clubhouse that I used to frequent, it had in back of the podium. In the desk or the podium, they had trust God, clean house, help others, and man, I think that's the path. Those 3 things are like so potent, and it's so profound. You trust God, who I didn't know, from a hole in the wall. And now I had a spiritual awakening. I had a personal relationship with God. You trust God. Clean house. I didn't even know what that meant when I came in. And my sponsor said, it's better to be clean than to be clever, you moron. And that he would rip into me, but clean of soul. It's better to be clean than to be clever. Clean house. and help others. So I always tell people, you know, if you split my head open and look into my brain, I got a very orderly mind. It's very ordered. And the reason why it's ordered is because I want to live in God's presence. And if there's something that walks in the room that don't belong there, by the grace of God and the help of you people, that's why I go to meetings, I could put a rope around its neck and lead it out of the room and get rid of it so I don't start tripping over it and it give me hell. Humbly ask him to remove my shortcomings. So you want the room decorated, you want the windows open with a nice breeze blowing through, paint it yellow and get some paintings, You know what I'm saying? I love AA. This is what I'm trying to say. I love AA. Everything I learned right in these rooms. Great sponsorship, just sharing from the heart. I got friends that I never thought I'd feel this comfortable with men. I didn't want to hang out with men. My father was a horror. He was like, he was an emotional 13-year-old, so there wasn't much going on. It was confusing. So you'd get hurt emotionally because he wanted to be taken care of all the time and he'd get upset. He was like a victim. So, it was hard for me to be around men. I thought, they want something. Everybody wants something. It's like dragging on me. But fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. The economic insecurity didn't bother me that much. It was the fear of people emotionally. So what could I tell you? I'm still here. You guys are the greatest. I love you for being here. Thank God we have each other. We are so blessed. We're the blessed ones, believe me. And in this confused world right now, at least we could go with him. I don't follow any of these fads or any of these, what are they called? Cable news junk, the people playing to their base and all that. I don't follow this stuff, man. I go with him. Peace, strength, health, forgiveness. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I live in reality. I'll vote for somebody that, lines up with my worldview or closest to it, that's what I'll do. But you know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful place to come because there is we're all on a beautiful foundation of peace and forgiveness and openness and honesty and willingness. It's just changed my life, and I'm so grateful that I'm a part of it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for asking me, Stefan.